Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something that is absolutely as awesome as it gets when it comes to a vintage dinosaur. We've got ourselves a brand new Creature Preacher model in the house. This is his vintage Land That Time Forgot style Carnotaurus. Now I say Land That Time Forgot style Carnotaurus because if you are familiar with those films, Carnotaurus didn't appear in those films. In fact, Carnotaurus wasn't even discovered when those films were made. So unfortunately, the species never had the opportunity to enter any films like that, and in fact, it obviously wasn't featured in any of the old school dinosaur movies, so a vintage style Carnotaurus isn't something we've ever seen, and we definitely haven't really seen it in, film versions. So, Creature Preacher, being as awesome as he is, went ahead and created himself a Carnotaurus in the style of the Land That Time Forgot dinosaurs. So, we have a really cool vintage version of, again, our pretty much demon Carnotaurus here. It looks very demon-like, very, very cool looking overall. Now, this is a third version, sort of a theropod in the style of the Land That Time Forgot. He already has created an Allosaurus and a Ceratosaurus, both of which I have reviewed here on the channel. Now he has gone ahead and created himself this really cool Carnotaurus, which again is the first time he's made a dinosaur like this in the style of what it would look like in that film, but was never actually featured in the film. And I think it looks so insanely cool. Like, he did such a great job of kind of creating this in a way where it looks pretty much exactly as I would have expected it to look in a film like that, but also really nice paint apps on this one, like if I can bring it back into screen there, but the paint apps on this, as he put it, he had gone ahead and tried to create it in a way where it was almost like, obviously sculpt-wise, an ode to the Land That Time Forgot, but paint-wise, a mixture of a demon Carnotaurus and Disney's dinosaur Carnotaurus, and it works so good. Like, it absolutely looks incredible here as far as the different tones of color, and combining those two color schemes, shockingly, creates a Carnotaurus that I think looks like it absolutely could have been the color as well of this dinosaur had it appeared in the film. So again, incredible work on the part of Creature Preacher. I always love the very unique and innovative releases that he comes up with, often kind of creating film-style dinosaurs, but in this case, a film-style dinosaur of a dinosaur that was never in that film. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Carnotaurus, you can straight away see how evil looking this Carnotaurus is. He has done a really good job of giving it that kind of dark and gloomy and eerie sort of a look, especially with the dark coloration here in the face and, running up and around the eye. And he's painted the eye out with a yellow, and that's all it is basically just like a yellow spot. And it works so good because it just makes that eye pop so nicely and at the same time just looks so eerie and evil. He's also painted the teeth out with a similar tone of yellow, and they as well just have that kind of dark and dirty and gritty feel like you would, see in one of those films. Like, the dinosaurs were often portrayed in a very eerie, almost, again, kind of gritty and scary style. And I feel like that's exactly what he has achieved here when creating this Carnotaurus. Like, could you imagine had this appeared in the film and looked like this? Me as a child, I probably would have had nightmares about it. You can see the nostrils are sculpted out really nicely right there in the snout. You can also see that we transition to a purplish tone. Now that occurs pretty much all over the place throughout the course of this model. You'll see it transition back and forth throughout the entire model. It's a little hard to really get inside the mouth, but the tongue is sculpted out in there. You can kind of see it, but the shadows are just really overtaking it. The tongue is also painted also with like a dark purplish tone, similar to what we see throughout the course of the body. You can also see the horns, again, those trademark Carnotaurus horns up here on the top of the head of the dinosaur, and they look, again, very demon-like up there, which looks really cool. If we come up here to the top of the head, you can get a good idea of what the texturing to the skin looks like, as well as a few kind of osteoderms and stuff beginning to poke up right here up on the top of the head. As we transition back into the back of the head, you start to get a really bumpy looking skin texture moving back, and you can again see really smooth transitions throughout as far as like purples and blacks and stuff moving through. It looks really nice, really natural, detail. As you move down the back of the dinosaur, you can again see how we transition, like we have darker tones here, but we have some of the purple running down here and a little bit of darker tone there. So lots of color variation throughout this one. He really did do a phenomenal job on this as far as the coloration as well as the realism and the very nice and smooth transitions of those colors. Moving down here through the neck, you can see some skin wrinkles and stuff, skin folds and everything throughout that course of the neck. You can also see a darker tone here running along the lower jaw, as well as some nice looking texturing to the skin there in the lower jaw. As you move down here toward the back and the spinal column and stuff of the dinosaur, first of all, he has included those trademark Carnotaurus osteoderms that we all know and love, that you always see portrayed on Carnotaurus. So even with this really cool vintage interpretation, we still get those osteoderms, and you can see it's basically like a huge cluster of them moving down the course of the back, almost giving it a kaiju-like look, in my opinion. But on top of that, he's also given it a really cool sort of a metallic coloration here running along those osteoderms, making the back stand out in a really unique way. And it's such a really neat little subtle addition I absolutely love. Like, it looks super, super cool here on the back of the dinosaur. Again, genius work on the part of Creature Preacher. As you move down here into the arm area of the dinosaur, you can see some more osteoderms and stuff poking up more as you move down the course of the arm. Again, really smooth transitions of color moving down the arm. As you lead down into the hand, you can see that hand is open and ready to attack, and you can obviously see that the dinosaur has its hands in kind of a mischievous sort of a positioning where it looks like it's definitely coming in for a kill. Again, also a similar way that dinosaurs would have been portrayed at this time. You can also see a nice light gray here running along the underside of the throat down into the, well, actually it's a dark tone in the throat, but the lower part of the throat moving down into the chest, you can see a nice light gray. Also some really nice looking detailing as you move down the course of the stomach and you move past the chest. You get down here into the lower part of the stomach, moving into the groin. Again, it all looks super, super kaiju-like, and the transition, you can see even moving out here when you run into the underside of the thigh, transitioning back out to the purple there. Look at how smooth that transition is. His paintwork is really, really nicely done. As you move down here to the front of the feet, you can see the feet are sculpted pretty nicely. Some nice big bulky looking toes, and you also have some nicely sculpted nails. Again, lots of color variation moving down as you have purples and blacks moving out through the course of the dinosaur. You can also see on the opposing leg over there, there is a dew claw present. And then if we come back over here to the side we were initially looking at, and you could take a look at the detailing again. First of all, in the stomach region, you could see more variations of blacks and purples, but you can also see a really bumpy looking texturing to the skin throughout. Some skin wrinkles here in the lower part of the stomach, and then moving down here to the thigh, you can see the hip bone right there, as well as some osteoderms and stuff moving down the course of the thigh. Again, just some more of those trademark Carnotaurus osteoderms. You can definitely get an idea of the muscle definition in the thigh moving down. You can also take notice to the knee right there in the front of the leg. And then again, that nice looking foot sculpt, just like we saw on the initial side. You can see the dinosaur kind of has its like toes sort of planted, but at the same time it's kind of leaning up like it's about to, you know, head in to try to kill us, I guess, or maybe to try to kill Doug McClure. I'm not entirely sure. And then as you lead out the length of the tail, you again have some more really nice looking paintwork, as well as some more really nice looking texturing to the skin. You can see moving through, there's all sorts of really bumpy skin texture moving out the length of the tail, and the tail is sculpted in a way where 100% looks like it could have been a faux for Godzilla. Absolutely, again, giant monsterish, kaiju-ish as far as that tail sculpt goes. And you can also see again that nice transition to the grayish tone for the underside. The tail also leans down and then heads back up. Also again kind of kaiju-ish, which these dinosaurs absolutely looked kaiju-ish in the movie, so it makes total sense that it would be sculpted in that way. So honestly, this is an incredibly, incredibly cool release from Creature Preacher, and of course is something that is near and dear to my heart, being a gigantic fan of Carnotaurus. A vintage, old-school movie monster, land that time forgot style Carnotaurus is something that I never in a million years would have expected to own, but here we are, and I couldn't be more excited about it because this thing just looks insanely, insanely cool in every possible way. Genius work on the part of Creature Preacher, if you ask me. Well, of course, I'm a little biased being that it's a Carnotaurus figure, but he really did do a phenomenal job, again, of creating this in a way where it absolutely looks like it came straight from the land that time forgot. Now, as far as a size goes, if we go from the snout to the tail, you're looking at about 11 3/4 inches or around 19.5. Actually, I'd say close to 30 centimeters in length. And then for a height to the top of the horn, right about on 7 inches, pretty much on the dot, or about 18 centimeters as I bump the camera there. But definitely nicely sized, and for a size comparison to show you that, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Creature Preacher Carnotaurus, and you can definitely see again, it has a pretty impressive size. It's quite a bit taller than Mr. Papo Rex, and the Papo Rex is a pretty good sized figure overall. So it definitely has a decent size to it. I don't feel like we need to do many comparisons this time around because we have already done comparisons with the other figures of this similar style, because this is right around the same style as the Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus. But that's one comparison I definitely want to see. So there is the whole crew, and wow, is that ever so cool looking to see all three of these together. Like, that might be one of the most exciting and really impressive visuals that I've ever seen when it comes to, old school sort of Land That Time Forgot dinosaurs. We've got the Ceratosaurus on the far left, the Allosaurus in the center, and our Carnotaurus on the right. And you can see again how he's created them all in that similar Land That Time Forgot style, but adjusted them as he went through to give each and every one its own individuality, its own unique appearance that differentiates it from the other, but still, again, giving them a look where they look like they belong together in the same, I guess, island or valley or whatever you want to call the area where the Land That Time Forgot occurs. But even just, for instance, with the Carnotaurus, you can see like he added extra digits. The entire back looks different as far as the osteoderm look. You've got osteoderms on the thighs. You, of course, have a set of horns up there on the top of the head. Again, quite a bit of difference between the others. So this is probably one of my favorite things that I've ever seen right here with these three different dinosaurs standing next to each other. Just an insanely cool comparison. But if you happen to have already purchased one of these other Land That Time Forgot dinosaurs from Creature Preacher, this should help to give you an idea of the fact that the Carnotaurus fits right in as far as the size. So this brand new Land That Time Forgot style Carnotaurus from Creature Preacher is incredibly cool. Like, absolutely one of my favorite things in my collection now, and definitely one of the coolest Carnotaurus I've had the pleasure of adding to my collection, because it's so unique and so different from every other Carnotaurus I've ever had, every other Carnotaurus I've ever seen. The Land That Time Forgot is a movie that as a child I enjoyed greatly. I always loved all of those old Doug McClure dinosaur or monster films, even all the way up to the Warlords of Atlantis, which is probably the most underappreciated of all of those films. But again, specifically with the Land That Time Forgot, I was in love with the fact that he created the Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus from those films, because I love the films so much, and having models of those dinosaurs is something that I definitely didn't ever expect to have the opportunity to own. But now he's gone ahead and reached straight into my heart and brought me a Carnotaurus in that style as well. So really speaking my language, really tugging on my heartstrings with this Carnotaurus, and he has done such a great job on it as well. Again, the detailing looks great overall. Like, it has that old school vintage movie monster style to it. It absolutely looks like it would be part of that film. And on top of that, he's created it again where it looks different from the others, but similar at the same time. He's gone ahead and resculpted so much of the figure just to make it look different, to make it have its own individual look, and I think he achieved it perfectly. And the paintwork on it is so nice, like really impressive overall. He's gone ahead and mixed numerous different variations of purples along with blacks, and just applied them in a really cool way, again, where his inspiration was the Demon Carnotaurus mixed with Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus on a vintage Carnotaurus, and I can see the inspiration from all of those in the paint here on this model, and it just looks and works so nicely. Like, it looks really cool. The transitions back and forth look great. It overall has, again, that exact style that you would have seen if this dinosaur did in fact appear in the films, and I love the fact that he used that kind of metallic coloration running down the back. Just a really neat little addition that I absolutely love. On top of that, the way he painted the eye, I normally wouldn't be like a massive fan of, just kind of giving it that yellowish pupil, but it looks so cool on this. And because the entire face is so dark and evil looking, the fact that we just have that little yellow pupil is just insanely neat looking because it stands out no matter where you look at it from. Even if I sit back and look at it from a distance, that eye pops so much nicer than you would expect it to, and again stands out in a very cool but very mischievous and somewhat evil looking way, which again works perfectly for it being a Carnotaurus. So again, in my opinion, another awesome release from Creature Preacher, and definitely something that I am beyond excited to add to my collection. So if you are interested in picking one of these up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Creature Preacher Etsy shop. And of course, make sure you follow Creature Preacher on Instagram to stay up to date on all the really cool stuff that he's working on, because he doesn't just create dinosaurs, he creates all sorts of giant monsters and other stuff too. So make sure you follow him on Instagram. Go check out his Etsy shop, grab this insanely cool Carnotaurus or any of his other awesome models, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.